Hi guys, as we're continuing with Karl Marx's theory, I am going to be covering historical materialism and material dialectics, and then I will be covering human consciousness by Karl Marx. So Karl Marx's ideas, remember that's the first recording that I did for you. His ideas were on the conflicting interests of the two social groups, which are the bourgeoisie as well as the proletariat. So according to Karl Marx, there's only two different social classes in society, which is the bourgeoisie, who are the owners of the means of production or who have the means of production. Remember that the means of production, we are referring to the tools and the material that are needed to produce. So if we were to talk about the a farming industry, for example, there are certain tools and materials that are needed to farm successfully. So those tools are the means of production according to Marx, right? And then there are those who do not own the means of production. Those are the proletariat, and those are the people who are exploited by the capitalist society, because he noticed that capitalism is the root cause of the conflict that exists between the haves and the have-nots, or rather the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. So when we're talking about historical materialism by Karl Marx, he believed that the driving force of society is material forces. So we are a materialistic society. We seek to gain more materialistic goods, and as a result, that is the driving force of society. But he also believed that all societies, whether developed and developing, he believed that we are all linked together in a complex global capitalist economic system. So in as much as we choose to acknowledge that we are different in our developed or developing countries, but there's still going to be a way that we work together. We are linked together in this very complex global capitalist economic system. So, in that, with that being said, in as much as that is still the case, that we are still linked together, we can still be very much aware of where we belong as a society. We can still be aware that we belong to more of the lower class, or we belong more to the upper class. And with that, that creates our human consciousness. And with that, there is also a quote by Karl Marx, which is on page 18, that says, "It is not the consciousness of men that determines their being, but on the contrary, their social being determines their consciousness." So he understood society as the reason why we understand ourselves. So the society that we are born into, the social group that we are born into, creates our consciousness. So we only then become aware of our situation. We only then become aware of the social group that we belong to when there are certain interests that are similar to each other. So if we all realized, for example, there's been a lot of protests that have been happening in the past few weeks. Of the one example that I can think of is the University of Wits students fighting for historical debts to be cleared. That is in itself human consciousness, and that these students were aware that in order for them to register at the Wits University, they would need to have their historical debts cleared. They all realize that they are all having the same struggles, they are all having the same challenges as students who are from historically disadvantaged backgrounds, right? So, with that being said, they all formed now a collective which will stand together to fight for their interests as students who are from disadvantaged backgrounds. So that in itself is them now being aware of their situation situation, and that in itself is them now fighting for their situation to get better. So our situation that we are born into, our social class that we are born into, creates our consciousness, because we now start constructing ideas of the world in accordance to our social standing, in accordance to where we were born into, or the social class that we were born into. That's how we start understanding the society. We start understanding the society based on what we have been exposed to. So a child who is born into an upper class, who lives in a very fancy neighborhood, will only know the world in that sense. But now in that neighborhood, if they're experiencing, say, load shedding and water shedding as well, all of these things will then become the challenges that they are all faced with as a community. But this will only be to fight, them fighting will only be to fight for their own interests as the people who are in the upper class, who do not have electricity and who do not have water. So they start now building a collective based on the challenges that they are faced with. So that is the idea of human consciousness according to Marx. We build our consciousness, or we only become conscious because of the society that we belong to. So our consciousness is determined by the society that we belong to. So that is the idea that Karl Marx had. For more information on Karl Marx's theory, please consult pages 16 to 21 in your textbooks. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you next time in our live session. I think it's next week. So enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, guys.